Hello, this is Abby.
Dear Abby, this is gonna be a long one.
Oh boy.
Dear Abbey, how do you tell the difference between a new exciting crush and a rebound?
Does it matter?
Dear Abby.
Dear Abbey.
Dear Abby.
Welcome to our little corner of the internet. This is the Dear Abby podcast. I hope you stay and hang out with us. See you in a sec. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Dear Abby. I am your host. My name is Abby, and today we are talking about creativity, but specifically, I think a lot of us have projects, businesses, ideas that we want to pursue and improve upon, or that we want to actually create and start. And sometimes we wait a little bit too long to start those, or we feel like it needs to be the perfect conditions to start those. And that's something that I always do. And so I wanted to talk about that because everybody has their things that they want to do and start and their dreams. And even if it's not career-wise or like a huge project, if it's just something small, I just think everyone should go for it. And life is so much better when you actually think about what you really want out of this life and what you really want to be good at or who you want to be, and then you go for it and you don't listen to the side of your brain that says you can't do it. So that's what I'm talking about today. And then the other thing that I will probably mention after the creativity part, if we have time, is just a sense of belonging, wanting to feel like you belong somewhere. But a lot of the times, a lot of us can feel like we don't belong anywhere, and that can be very sad and discouraging and kind of confusing and a little bit like we're floating. So those are the main things we're talking about today. But before that, I wanted to share a couple life updates. And I think I've mentioned it before on the podcast, but I'm going to be starting a Patreon this year. I don't know exactly what month, so sorry that it's pretty vague, but all it's going to be, the first tier at least, is just unedited versions of my podcast. And also I might do an extra bonus episode that's kind of shorter and is not serious, and it's just more fun and with siblings or my friends or something like that, to maybe get a different side of me. We'll see what happens with that, but I'm pretty excited. It's not going to be anything crazy, but so there's an update for the podcast. And then a normal life update is how obsessed I am with crafting and embroidery specifically. I started to embroider like just 3 months ago, and it's so relaxing, and it's my favorite thing to do when I come home from work, and I just do it after I am done with the day. Like I'm done, I finally finish the dishes after dinner, and then I shower, and then I climb in bed and I just embroider away. And I'm just learning, so I'm not necessarily talented at it yet, but I really enjoy it, and it's really fun and creative, and I get to make whatever I want. And with embroidery, there technically are rules if you want to be super strict about it, and there's a lot of different techniques that I think are amazing and that are fun to learn. But then a part of it that I like is there are no rules, because I'm just doing it for fun and to get better at my art and just artistry in general, because you have to sketch out things before you do it, and I try not to trace. I'm trying to get better at just sketching it myself, even though it's really tempting because it's so easy to trace things on your phone or on your iPad. So I'm just hand drawing things, and then I embroider them, and I come up with my own weird, like I try different techniques of how to wind up the thread or just random stuff to see what will work. And some things look really good, and I just made it up, and it's probably a thing, but I didn't know. So I give myself some props. But it's been really nice to find like a little hobby that I really enjoy right now. And right now it's embroidery. And that might change, but right now I'm really enjoying it, because same thing with art, any kind of creativity, you just do whatever you want, and there's no rules. And rules are good and rules are helpful for a lot of things, but sometimes your soul just needs a break from it, and a different part of you just needs to breathe. And that's how I breathe. So is, painting or art or anything like that. I'm also excited because I talked about a program that I was doing for my posture a long time ago. And now that I'm saying that, I feel like I have to fix my posture, but I've always had not the best posture. Not terrible, but I think I I definitely don't put in the effort to strengthen my back as much. Therefore, my posture can start to weaken, and also my chest is really tight, like my frontal body, my neck is really tight, which can just bring everything up and curve over. So anyways, I started a program a while ago before my wedding that was to help improve my posture, and also I'm doing a lot of strength training for my back and my chest and everything. And it's been feeling really good. I used to get migraines a lot, and now I don't get as many migraines. It's just simple exercises and stretches that have really made a huge difference in that. So I know this is so random, but I feel like it's just something that's more common nowadays because of how we work on our phones or on our laptops or wherever. So this is not an ad or anything. I just will have the link to the program that I use below, and I haven't seen like a massive change yet because I haven't been as consistent as I wanted to be. But even the small amount that I've been doing it and missing a couple of days, I've seen a real difference in at least my migraines going down. So I'll put that in the description if you're interested. It's just an Instagram account, and it's a girl, or I don't know if it's her and her sister, but they made a program. It's just really interesting, that stuff, and she's very passionate about it, and I can respect that. So those are my life updates. Time to get into the meat of today's episode. Can you be both brainy, analytical, and creative at the same time? It sounds like a silly question, and obviously not really, because it's left brain versus right brain. I don't know how the brain works. I'm not a neuroscientist, so I don't understand how many things can be flared up at once in your brain, which I believe you can have multiple, so yes, maybe. But mostly what I wanted to talk about was the fact that sometimes when you are trying to do something creative, or maybe you have a creative career, or you just are trying to paint or draw or create music or do something, and it feels as though you're not creative enough because you don't feel creative and you're not in that creative state of mind or that flow state where you get that inspiration. So when that's not there, you feel like you're not creative, or you're not allowed to create, if you don't feel this huge surge of inspiration. And obviously it feels better when you are creating to feel that inspiration and to feel a surge of that flow state. But if you're too attached to having to feel a certain way or to have everything be perfect and you're perfectly inspired, and then you can start your project, and then you can start your business, I think that is where you kind of lose sight of your full range and your full human brain range of what you can accomplish. Even if you would consider yourself a creative person, which everybody is creative, but you're drawn to that type of a lifestyle, and being artistic is what you really feel like is your calling and you can't help but do it, then you are an artist and you're creative. But that also doesn't mean that you don't have that analytical part of your brain, because everybody also has that. And to improve your creativity in your business, use that part of your brain. Use the analytical part of your brain when your creative isn't firing, or when you maybe feel less motivated or inspired. Then be like, okay, I'm not going to have this fun, like free-flowing vibe right now when I'm doing this, when I'm creating this, or I'm working on this project. So let's do the analytical stuff that I'm really not going to enjoy anyways, but that needs to get done because it needs to get done. And specifically, it can be more of maybe you're editing something and you're trying to figure out how to fix an audio thing. And that's more of like an analytical, looking at videos, trying to figure out exactly how to click which buttons. It's not as fun as figuring out how can we make this look beautiful. And you're also working on maybe the financials, so trying to figure out how you're going to fund something, or how you can get more people to even see your creative projects. Like, how do I use the algorithm? How do you get more people to see it, basically? And that's not as fun, or again, as free flowing, but that is an essential part of your business if it's something that you're wanting to grow. My husband was telling me, he was listening to a podcast who was talking about business, and that it should be basically like, I think it was either 85-15 or 90 or 80-20, where 80% of the time you're working in your business, you're doing the you're making whatever you're making, you're actually creating the stuff. And then the 20% is on your business. So growing your business, working on even if there's going to be branding and just the setup of your actual business or the setup of a project. I like to analyze. I actually analyze data for work, and I do enjoy it. There's a part of me that really enjoys that because it's right there. You get an answer, you can look at it and you know what's happening. You look at the data and you're like, this is real, this is what's actually happening, and I can see it with my own eyes. But then there's the other part of me, the more creative part, that loves the freedom of art and loves the fact that I can just start from this is an idea and then watch it turn into a real thing that you can see with your own eyes, an idea into the actual creation of something. But in order to get from that idea to the actual creation is not just your creative part of your brain, it's a mix of both. And this may sound obvious, but even to me, I have to remind myself that I have to do some of the less fun things with some of my side projects that I do, because I can get really discouraged or feel like, well, I'm not a creative if I'm not always in that creative flow, or if I'm not always feeling inspired and I'm in the creative deficit or something, which can obviously be like the writer's block or something along those lines, or you might not feel like you enjoy your art or your creativity right now. And that's okay. That's not going to be forever. And that's not something nobody is like creative all the time, every second of every day. I don't know anybody that's like that. Just cut yourself some slack. You don't have to be have inspiration and motivation flowing through your veins at all points of the day. And there's not going to be a perfect time to start your project or something that you're interested in learning or doing, because it can be tempting to watch 1,000 videos or read 1,000 articles or research it too much before you begin, because then you don't just start learning. You can research and you can study and you can learn, and that's amazing and that's important, but that can be kind of deceiving, because then you think you know all about this thing, and you might know it from an external perspective, like from an external standpoint, I guess, an outsider perspective, until you're actually doing whatever it is that you're interested in doing. Let's say it's drawing. I'm going to pick drawing. You can watch 1 million YouTube videos of someone drawing. You can watch all the different techniques. You can watch all the different artists, research all about art and drawing, but you're not going to be any better at drawing actually until you start drawing. And I'm not saying it's not important to research. I am the queen of this. I will research the crap out of everything, and I will watch 1,000 YouTube videos before I do something. So that's why I'm speaking to this, because I know I'm not the only one, and we have so much information that we feel like we should do that. So I still research a lot before I'm trying to do something, and I want to learn. Like, I was learning how to sew and I was watching YouTube videos, and then I was like, okay, I got to stop. And now I have to actually translate that learning to actually understand and do it with my own hands now, and really actually understand what I'm being taught. Because if you're taking in too much information without having any experience, a lot of that information is going to go in one ear and out the other, because you might not understand what they say applies to whatever it is you're doing. Maybe you've been doing it longer, and then you watch that same video or you listen to that same book, and now because you've done it and you've been in the works, you're like, oh, I understand what they're saying with that. Like, I see how that applies to the real world now, instead of just an idea of something. A lot of us, I think, have 9-to-5 jobs or normal jobs that, we just that we just have to work and that we maybe want to work in. But then we also have a lot of things we want to do. And I got a Dear Abby question about it, which is also what I'm thinking of, because I've been thinking about this anyways. But then that also was just like, I really liked that question, because a lot of us are in that state of, we have a job, but then we also have a lot of dreams and we want to do different things and we want to create something. And there's not going to be a perfect time to create that. So you just got to start. And it's exhausting sometimes, because I love my podcast. I love doing this. But when I get home from a full day of work, going to the gym in the morning, go to work, come home, I'm so tired. I am so tired. The last thing I want to do is set up all of these things and like get out. And we're in a studio apartment. I have to grab all of the lights, the camera, set it up. And I'm grateful and I'm excited once I'm in it. when I'm planning for it, I get excited to just like be here, but it's hard and it's not always fun. So I just, in the spirit of being honest, it's like can be very hard to show up to something that you still find that is like your passion or creative project. So I'm right there with you, and I'm really tired a lot of the times, but I didn't want to wait till, I didn't have to work anymore and Keen was making enough to where I don't have to do anything and I just get to podcast, and that just wasn't my reality, and it's not, but I still wanted to create something, and it's not perfect and I still have room to perfect it. And it's been, I'm just using this as an example. It's been a couple years making this and I'm still learning how to do it, and I'm still learning how I can make better content and better episodes for you guys, like more structured or whatever it is that I think can improve my podcast. I want to do that. So it's just, you work as you go and you understand more as you go. And definitely the mindset of it needs to be perfect before I do it or show up can be debilitating, and that's just going to keep pushing you off more and more and more. That's not real. That's just not real. Nobody has ever been perfect at something before they started doing it. That doesn't even make sense. And I think we already know that's irrational when we think that. So just with that fear and that anxiety and discomfort, just do whatever you wanted to do anyways, like whatever project you're working on or you want to start. Sometimes we feel like we aren't able to do something creative because we don't maybe see ourselves as creative, or that we are capable of taking up some of that space in this world, creating something really cool and beautiful. It feels like there's already so many books and movies and TV and music and art, and there's so many other things that are already out there. So it feels like it's oversaturated is the word I feel like I hear people use. That basically you feel like, why would I want to add to all the stuff that's already out there? I always have that part of me that feels that way. And then I think there's been a lot of other people's creations. Everything I consume is basically other people's creations that I really enjoy and that really make my life sweeter and richer. If they felt like, well, we already have so many video games, why would I make this video game? Or why would I make this art? There's already so much art that's colorful. Like, how many different styles can there be? But people will be drawn to your art. Like, people will be drawn to what you're creating if you are creating from your heart and your soul, and you're really passionate about it, and people feel that and they can recognize you through what you create. And don't feel bad if you need to use your analytical part to improve your business or your project, to make sure people see it, because you have to find the right audience or the right people, and you have to do that through being a little bit more analytical and a little bit more business oriented, which can feel like it's like a horrible, evil thing. Like business is, a corporate machine, which fair enough. However, there is a lot of pros that can come from that mentality of growth. And that's really all it comes down to, at least it can be for you, to just think about it as growth. And how do I find the people that will appreciate what I'm creating? And if you don't want it to be about that, because it's just a hobby, that's not really what I'm referring to. I'm referring to specifically something that you want to grow, and you want to start and grow and create something out of it that people see. And so I think that's all I wanted to talk about on this subject. I love talking about this, obviously, and I could keep talking about it all day if I wanted, because I want everybody to follow their dreams. And that sounds silly, but we all have these things that we want to start and we want to do, and then we talk ourselves out of it for whatever reason, because it's hard and it's scary and it can feel like a risk, and it is all of those things, but it's really worth it when you stay true to yourself as you create something and use your smart brain to figure out how to do it. Okay, I'll segue into, I think, just a little blurb about going along with being creative and feeling like you can take up space in that area in this world. I think just in general, it can be hard to feel like you belong or that you can take up that space. I think it can be hard to feel like you belong, like really belong somewhere. I grew up feeling like I never really fit in, which sounds so cliche, and I feel like a lot of people feel like this. talking about it. It's so interesting that so many people, I feel like a lot of people feel like this growing up, and even can be when you're an adult and you just like, you don't belong anywhere, you don't fit in. And what this feeling comes from, I'm not 100% sure, obviously, but in my experience, it's just come from not willing to accept that I'm not perfect. Nobody sees me as perfect. Nobody else is perfect. Everybody else can still possibly hurt my feelings and hurt me. And that this world is not perfect, basically. And things are uncertain, which I think, shockingly, leads back to a very black and white mindset and not wanting to sit with uncertainty, period. And so in order for me to feel like I belong somewhere, I have to accept uncertainty and accept the imperfections and the human condition, including myself, and fully accept it without trying to change or fix the fact that we're not perfect. I cannot do that. And the reason I think that makes you feel like you belong is because when I do that, at least, it starts to break down these walls that I have that make me feel like life has to be a certain way. And then once those are broken down a little bit, I feel like everybody else, I feel like I can actually connect and relate to people. And I'm actually listening to other people. Because sometimes I didn't feel like I belonged because other people were mean to me or other people were actually hurtful. So it's not necessarily my fault. And sometimes I think it was my own doing unknowingly, innocently, not recognizing that I am kind of making myself feel like I don't belong, even though I'm sure people would love to welcome me to wherever I am. It's such a natural thing to feel like we don't belong somewhere, because if you're not curious about yourself, like really curious about what's going on in here, and also curious about what's going on with other people, you're not even gonna know how to belong or like what that even means, because you're not letting anything in. And when you start to get curious about yourself, you kind of learn where you feel like you would belong. Basically, what I'm trying to say is you do belong. To think that you don't belong on this earth is kind of crazy, because you are alive, you are real, you are alive in this moment, you are alive in this moment in time on earth. You have ideas, you're smart, you're capable. If you're alive, then obviously you belong. Life is such a miracle, and being alive is a miracle, and so you definitely belong, because you are here and you are here now. So there is something so good that you can do and will do with your life. And it might not feel like that all the time, and nobody feels like that all the time. So you belong in that way too. It can be scary to feel like letting those walls down, to feel like you belong somewhere, because you don't want to get hurt, because you've probably been hurt in the past, because people can be freaking mean, especially kids growing up. So it can feel scary to let yourself feel like you belong somewhere, but you do, and you belong here, and you can take up the space, and you have great ideas, and you have so much you can give to this world, and you have so much you can help people with and do really cool, amazing, creative, smart, analytical things. So don't forget it. I don't know if that was convincing, but that is how I feel. So do with that what you will. You are safe here and you belong here, and everything is okay. Enough of that. Okay, so let's do a Dear Abby, which I'm excited about this one. Also, I have my phone on again. So let's do this thing.
Dear Abbey, I need some advice because I have been looking for a job for the last couple of months and just have not had any success. I'm in college right now. I'm pursuing a degree in music therapy. So I really love working with people. And I feel like I've had lots of good experience that would help me get a job. But I just have been applying everywhere and no one's getting back to me. And it's just really discouraging. So I don't know if I need to like lower my pay standards or the hours that I am looking for. But yeah, if you have any advice, I would be very grateful for that. Thank you so much.
Okay. Well, first off, you're a brave soldier because interviewing and that whole process can be so defeating and exhausting, and it can be so discouraging. So, discouragement doesn't mean it's not going to get better. It's just discouraging and it's exhausting. So, want to validate those feelings because it is really hard. If you are not getting callbacks, then it's something to do with your resume. So with a resume, this is the knowledge that I have, and I'm pretty, not to toot my own horn, but I am a pretty good interviewer. Was not always a good interviewer. And also I spent a lot of time learning what the best way to set up your resume is. First things first, if you're not getting callbacks, it's your resume. And you're probably not explaining or not showing your actual skill set in a way that people can see it on paper. Because if your resume is not good, then they're going to look over that thing in 2 seconds. It has to make somebody stop because they're probably looking at a lot of resumes. So your resume has to be quite literally a showstopper. How to do that? Pro tip, not pro. I'm not a pro. I don't know why I said pro tip. But I have a pretty decent job, okay? Full disclosure, I did not go to a lick of college. I did not go to one single day of college, and I have a pretty good job that probably most people would have wanted you to go to college for, but if you know your stuff and you interview well, you can get the job. Like you said, you have good experience, you're very knowledgeable, and you are going to be amazing at whatever you do, and you know that. But you need to make sure that you can translate that on paper and in an interview so other people can recognize that, because they can't read your mind and they don't know your past unless you explain it eloquently. So always keep that in mind, which can be intimidating, but you can do it. And I think there's a template actually in Canva that's like minimalist resume. That's a great resume setup. It just makes it look clean, because some people, you would be shocked at how many people just do like bullet points and then like enter bullet points and then enter and then like a really badly spaced document. So this is what I have on mine, a really brief summary of it. My name, my title, like a brief title, which is basically just what your profession is and what you would want people to recognize you as professionally. And then right under that, it's like a little tiny paragraph of what you are experienced in. It's kind of like a little paragraph about you, but it's like 2 sentences. Mine's like experienced blank, blank, blank manager with demonstrated history of blank, 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 skilled in blank. Then I have 3 main sections on my resume, and this is all in one page, one beautiful page. I have skills, work experience, and contact information. The contact information looks very cute. I did little icons to show a mail as a letter. And then my address is like a little location logo thing. And then my phone number is like an actual phone little icon. So there's just cute touches you can do that make you look like you put in a lot of effort with your resume, which people, if you're hiring someone, you'd want someone who does that and goes the extra mile and make sure they're not just throwing it together, because they might do that with their work. And not to toot my own horn, but I did get a lot of compliments on this when I was interviewing, and I had multiple job options. So again, not to toot my own horn, but I did research extensively. You want to make sure that your skills that you're putting are very concise and specific, but you don't want it to be too wordy. Like 2 of my skills, for example, are team and performance management. Another one is process redesign and improvement and reporting, or another one, reporting and documentation. Like those are my skills. Work experience, you don't have to do all of your previous jobs. I just picked 2 that had to do the most with what I'm applying for. So another thing to know always is to change your resume at least a little bit to whatever job you're applying for. So if you're applying for a job that might have more to do with a previous job that you had versus another one, then you would use the job that it has more to do with to add to your work experience. So you could have a couple different resume templates that you just touch up before you send it into an employer. And obviously you would change your skills too, because if you're applying to a specific role and they said they want certain skills, you don't need to necessarily say those exact skills, because sometimes that can be a little bit like fake feeling, but you can come up with ones that are similar and along the same lines that they know can translate well to what they're looking for, but that you actually know how to do. You don't want to like lie, but you just want to find good skills and good words to put in what your knowledge is. And then interviewing, sorry, this is probably not even what you were asking necessarily, is like all these annoying tips, but I think that this stuff is weirdly fun to learn about because the sky's the limit. You know, you could get an amazing job if you interview really well and you have a really good resume. So my favorite interviewing tips are you don't want to be too eager or too laid back. You want to be confident. And confident isn't talking over someone. It's not being prideful. It's not being, I'm better than you in this job. Confidence looks like I will find a job no matter what, and I'm grateful for this opportunity. However, if you don't hire me, I'm just going to find another company who wants to hire me, and I'm going to be okay. When you have really laid back, confident energy, people love that. You just don't want to be too desperate when you go into an interview, and you don't want to ever talk badly about any place you've ever worked because you want to be positive and you want to feel people want to hire somebody who they want to work with. And if you come in with an attitude or you come in with no confidence, they might be a little bit hesitant to hire you. But if you come in with a good attitude, you're cool, calm, collected, confident, and you know your stuff, and when they ask you questions, you can really answer and speak to what they're asking and really read the descriptions of what job you're interviewing for. So just walk in there with confidence and study and really know the systems that you'd be working with, know and really understand the team that you're working with, and ask good questions, like questions that you really actually want to know instead of just trying to look a certain way. I don't know, you could probably find YouTube videos that talk about this. And then obviously to speak on the mindset of being discouraged, just let yourself be discouraged for a second and then pick yourself up, give yourself a pep talk, and know that you are a good worker. You're probably a really hard worker, and you also know your stuff and you care, and you're going to find a great job. And it might take longer than you think, or it might not take longer than you think. It might be, you might have already gotten a job after you sent this in. So this could all be worthless, but pick yourself up, dust yourself off. If something's not working, then edit your resume. If I can find that resume template, I'll link it. If it's not in there, then I couldn't find it. But a resume is so important, and you need to do a lot of research on how to build your resume because you just want them to be able to see what you actually know how to do, and you need to be able to translate that on paper because you really probably do know your stuff. It's just sometimes it's hard to show people that before they meet you when they've worked with you for a couple of months. You need to show them that before they've ever even met you. So it can be tricky. So I would spend your time doing that. Don't ask for less pay unless it's barely, if it's like a little bit less and it's a perfect job, then go for it. But I wouldn't think about decreasing your pay. I would think of being strong and firm. If that's what you think that you are worth, then don't lower your standards and don't lower what you think you're worth. If that's what you think you're worth, then that's what you should get paid. That's all we have time for today, folks. Not really, actually. I have all the time in the world. I can make these episodes 4 hours if I wanted to. But I am getting pretty sleepy. I got to get dinner ready and cooked as well. So thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to today. Oh my gosh. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Dear Abbey. If you want to support the podcast, you can leave a rating and a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And also I have a YouTube that I post on as well. So you can go subscribe and like and comment or whatever you want to support my YouTube as well. And like I said, I'll be starting a Patreon coming up here, so look forward to that. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Bye. Love you. 우회전 taking a ride to journey 눈치 보면서 들어가 할 때 찾아 나머진 바빠 개설레임 바꾸는 사람들